we go. That's it. Lovely. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll crack on and we will start the presentation. So welcome to Rewind Your Body Clock. Just wait 1 second while I share the screen. Here we go. And share. Lovely. Righty-ho. Let's make that big. Good stuff. Okay. Let me go back into there. I'm just going to get everything nicely set up for us. Okay. There we go. Good. All right, lovely. That's it. Good. 1 second, sorry, as always. There we are. Okay. There we are. Lovely. Great. Okay, that's fantastic. Always good when you're recording to make sure that it's all set up correctly. Otherwise, things go very wonky. So today, as I said, we're talking about Rewind Your Body Clock, which is with me, Jayney Goddard. I'm president of the Complementary Medical Association, a fellow of the CMA and a fellow of the Royal Society of Medicine. And as I explained earlier when we first kicked off, everything I'm bringing you is thoroughly based in research. Okay, so what is, first of all, the Complementary Medical Association? I think it's helpful for you to know a little bit about where I'm coming from and my background, and then why I decided to sort of get so passionate and interested in anti-aging. So the Complementary Medical Association is the world's leading professional association in the natural healthcare arena. Our members are complementary medical practitioners and natural health therapists, training schools, retreats, clinics, spas, and other associations. In my role as founder and president of the CMA, I've worked with governments worldwide to help them set standards in the field. And our members in all categories are recognised and respected globally, and they represent the very best that this profession, the complementary medicine and natural healthcare profession, has to offer. They are dedicated to upholding the CMA standards of ethics and professionalism. So many of you in this group have already read Rewind Your Body Clock. It's a wonderful book, and if I do say myself, but the thing is, when the book launched, it went straight into Amazon, right at the #1 spot of all of the books on Amazon. It was the biggest gainer in sales rank over the last 48 hours as soon as it launched. And then it went straight in. I don't know if you can see that teeny tiny down there, the #1 bestseller in its category, which of course is aging. So the book has done really well. It was serialized twice by the Daily Mail. But more importantly, I think, is the fact that it's the feedback I get about the recommendations in the book, which is that people just say that it's life-changing. And I've had people send me before and after pictures, and every time I receive something like that, it just blows me away. I know this stuff works, but when you actually see it in a picture and the way somebody's life is transformed, it really is just the most beautiful thing. So as I said earlier, I've got gifts for you, so bear with me, because I'll show you at the end exactly how to get everything. We've got the most beautiful gratitude journal, which is again science-based, and it's got a specific type of exercise in it for you to do. I've got a meditation and deep sleep recording and some biological age tests that I spoke about earlier, which will actually help you to understand and to be able to track the improvements that you make over time when you implement lifestyle changes. So, first of all, before we kick off on all of the lifestyle changes, what I want to do is I want to talk about how our genes are not our destiny. You know how a lot of people tend to think that, you know, my forefathers, my dad, my mum, my granny, my great-granny, my great-granddad, my great-great-granddad, and so on, had XYZ condition. Therefore, it's hereditary, I'm going to get it as well. That's absolutely not true. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. The point is that what we now know from the research field of epigenetics, which the word itself, there's a clue in the name, epi meaning above, and then genetics or genes, the genes that actually code for the way or express whether we are going to have blonde hair, blue eyes, or what have you. And also, of course, express for the types of health conditions that we may well possibly be prone to developing. We may have a genetic predisposition towards. But the interesting thing is that the genes that we are dealt at moment of conception does not actually predict our future as it used to be thought. And so what happens with genes is that we can switch them on and switch them off according to the choices that we make. Now, as for me, my background is that, I work in complementary medicine and well-being, and I write lovely books, and I do lots of lovely broadcasts and all sorts of wonderful things, and of course head up the Complementary Medical Association, which is a very, 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 very busy lifestyle, challenging to say the least, even for somebody in the best of health. But my genetics are really quite wonky, and so I'm prone, and yes, there is a family disposition towards, in my case, autoimmune disease. So I have rheumatoid arthritis and Hashimoto's thyroiditis and various other wonky bits and pieces going on. And the point for me is that when I was, I actually got very, very, very sick. I was literally from being very, very fit and well as a ballerina and teaching dance when I was about 30, to suddenly 3 weeks later being in a wheelchair and completely dependent upon other people, because I had this sudden just this sudden kickoff of rheumatoid arthritis. It really is the most extraordinary thing, and I didn't expect it. It came completely and utterly out of the blue. And so I'd gone from literally being the fittest person imaginable to being somebody who's completely dependent upon others within a 3-week period. It was the strangest thing, and no time at all to even get used to the idea of being profoundly disabled. And at my very worst, this is cutting a very long story short, but I'm telling it for a reason. So at my very worst, I experienced a massive rheumatoid arthritis flare-up. My weight dropped to around about 5 stone, which is 85 pounds for those of you that think in terms of pounds. And I had catabolized all of my muscle tissue because my body was just throwing this massive inflammation, and inflammation takes a lot of energy to facilitate, especially when your entire body is attacking itself. So I was literally skin and bone, and I was so profoundly ill that I was admitted into a hospice care centre. But I wasn't expected to live. They gave me 2 weeks to essentially, as they said, get my affairs in order. And it was a huge shock, as you can well imagine. I knew I was profoundly ill, but I had no idea. And so I was admitted into this hospice centre, and I started looking at what I could do to change my lifestyle, because I was a practitioner already at that point, and I thought I was doing everything right. I was, this was back in the 90s, so back then we were eating, oily fish and salad, and having a glass of red wine, and perhaps a cup of black coffee, and I was buying into all of those myths that really are not true. We now know, we've now got so much more research, but back in the 90s, that was what was deemed to be a healthy diet back then. And so I thought I was doing everything right, but boy, was I wrong. And it was fueling. The nutrition I was taking was actually toxic to me. It was fueling this degenerative illness, this profound illness that really essentially meant that, I was staring death in the face at that point. And anyway, I had, various of my colleagues, my complementary medical friends came in, and a couple of them were saying, look, you've really got to go onto a plant-based diet. And others were saying, and make this lifestyle change, and giving me things that I hadn't necessarily thought of. And I was, yes, well, I've tried everything, I've tried it. But in desperation, obviously, I had to make some changes. And so I started to make these changes, and little bit by bit, it got to the point where they realized I wasn't going to die in the hospice. So they moved me out to a very intensive care, a high care residential unit, and I was there locked into a fetal position for about another year. And honestly, I was just, it was a dire situation, but I was making minuscule gains, and eventually learned to walk again. Eventually, obviously, I had to learn to stand first and so on. But you see, the thing is that the doctors had told me that I would never walk again. In fact, my rheumatologist said, you just got to accept the fact that you're always going to be chair-shaped, which I thought was rather cruel, but, not giving me any hope at all. But, as far as the conventional medics were concerned, there was no way that I was actually going to be able to survive this onslaught or do anything to improve the rheumatoid arthritis. Now, fast forward to today, I've got an amazingly demanding job. I'm incredibly active. I'm back to dancing and having the best time ever with all of that, and back to playing my harp and so on and so forth. And so, you know, it just goes to show that when you're given a death sentence, you don't buy into it, because mindset, as we shall see in this presentation, is just crucial. But the thing was, when I was in the hospice, a friend of mine came along with a biological age testing piece of kit. And I didn't know anything about sort of anti-aging or anything like that very much at that particular time. And so what actually happened was I did the test, and I was only 37 at the time. And my biological age came out at 55. So not only was I sort of, you know, sitting, well, lying there with a death sentence going on, but actually I was mortified to find that I was so much older than my actual chronological age, just under 20 years older. And of course, that was, you know, that wasn't very, very happy making at all. But anyway, here's the thing. By doing the recommendations and my findings and everything that I've written about in Rewind Your Body Clock, and everything I talk about and everything I lecture over on my YouTube channel and so on, all of these actually changed my biological age, and they actually rewound my biological age to the fact that it's now measuring at around 27. So obviously I've aged chronologically since then. I'm now 57. So I'm actually biologically 30 years younger than my actual chronological age. And I've maintained that biological age for the last 30 years. So it goes to show, even if you've had a really, really bad deck of cards dealt to you genetically, your genes are not your destiny. There is so much that you can do. So we're also going to cover telomeres. What exactly are telomeres? I'm just getting the science bits out of the way because it kind of brings everything else into context. Right. Okay, this lady here is Professor Elizabeth Blackburn. She was the winner of the Nobel Prize, along with another lady called Alyssa Appel, for their discovery of telomeres and telomerase. Telomeres, as you can see, are these little bits. This is just a graphical representation, but it's a very nice representation of what a chromosome looks like. And to give you an idea, that chromosomes have on their ends these little kind of caps, and these are little proteins. And what they do is they essentially, think of it, if you like, as a shoelace. And you know how shoelaces have that little plastic bit on the end? It's called an aglet. There's a fun fact you can share with friends and family in a dull moment. So the little aglet on the end is the thing that stops your shoelace, or in this case telomeres, from basically unraveling. Okay, so they're very, very important. Now, the interesting thing from an aging perspective is that telomere length can actually correlate with biological age. So the longer our telomeres are, the younger we are biologically. The shorter our telomeres are, the older we are biologically. So is there anything in conventional medicine that can lengthen our telomeres and make us biologically younger? No, there isn't. But we can do this. We can grow our telomeres. So how do we do that? Well, it's with lifestyle interventions, lifestyle choices. In fact, everything we're going to cover today, and I'm going to do it today for you as like sort of the top of the pops thing, you know, from 10 to 1, because top of the pops was always good, wasn't it? So, as I say, preserving telomere length and lifestyle choices. And the other thing that we've got to really add into the mix is mindset. Again, it's all about mindset. Aging is mindset. This lady here is Professor Ellen Langer. Now, Ellen Langer is, she's also at Harvard, along with Elizabeth Blackburn and Alyssa Appel. And Professor Ellen Langer is just the most extraordinary scientist. I love her to bits. She was the lady behind the very famous counterclockwise study. And also, if you get a chance, look up BBC Horizon, The Young Ones. Ellen Langer and Michael Mosley took a group of stars who were at their peak biologically and also mentally, emotionally and physically and so on when it was the 1970s. So they had these stars who were absolute household names in the 70s, and what they did was they put them into an immersion environment of the 1970s. So they had the 1970s psychedelic wallpaper, they had the shag pile carpet, they had 1970s news on the TV, 1970s programs on the radio, and even pictures of themselves as they were in the 1970s. They were in that environment for just 1 week. At the end of the week, they redid the tests that they did on these people before they went into this 1970s house. They redid the tests, and it showed that they were, generally speaking, overall, biologically younger by at least 10 years in 1 week. Their waist circumference had decreased, their blood sugar levels had stabilized, their high blood pressure, they all had high blood pressure, so that had normalized. Their cognitive function on cognitive function tests had improved. They'd even got taller. You know how we think that little old people shrink as you know, we all shrink as we get older. Not true. A lot of that is actually postural, because we just sort of, we get tired, we hunch, and things start to just kind of close in on themselves. And that doesn't have to happen. These people actually got taller. Some of them gained nearly 17 years of age. So it's just fantastic. Go and look it up, because honestly, you will not regret it. So what are these fantastic things that we have to do in order to grow our telomeres and to develop this beautiful age rewind mindset, age rewind mindset? You try saying that after a couple of drinks. Not that I've had a couple of drinks. I'm a lightweight. I can't drink alcohol. It doesn't work for me. Okay, so epigenetics. As we know, we've got more control over our future than we may possibly even begin to realize. Everything in our lives has the ability to switch on or switch off the genes that code for health and illness. Now, another resource I have for you is a study really famous study by Dr. Dean Ornish. This is a link for it, and you will get a copy of this presentation, so you can look up all the links. And please, do so, because it's fascinating to read about this stuff. But what Ornish and colleagues did was they took a group of men who'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and they opted for watchful waiting rather than surgery, which is a sensible strategy, because they do say, don't they, that all men die with prostate cancer, because initially, as a man ages, his prostate starts to enlarge. It's a condition called benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH for short. But occasionally it can happen that the prostate can become cancerous. So these men were diagnosed with prostate cancer. So what Ornish did was he put them onto a whole food plant-based diet. He got them doing exercise such as yoga, so mindful types of exercise, and he got them meditating as well. And it was actually discovered, they looked at the men's genes, they discovered that the cancers had either completely regressed or had stayed static and not progressed. And they then looked at the genes in the men that coded or expressed for cancer, and those genes had been switched off. Now, if that doesn't blow your mind and make you go, I don't know what, because honestly, it's just extraordinary, isn't it? That just nutrition and meditation and light exercise could actually turn off the genes for cancer. Every choice we make today predicts our future health. Let's also look at food and eating from the socio-economic perspective to really get things, to really drill down and really understand it. So we know that a lot of people in developed nations have a poor diet. In fact, in the UK, we know that it costs us 27 billion, when we have stats not up to date, but that's 2017 is the last time the statistics were run on this, which means it's costing us more than £3 million an hour to treat the problems caused by poor diet. And the wider costs cost us over 73 billion per annum. Now, the wider costs being things like treating type 2 diabetes and other lifestyle related illnesses, including heart disease, most cancers, and even neurological diseases, including things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, all related to diet and inflammation. In the USA, it's even worse. It costs them 190 billion a year, which is 21 blah, 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 over 21 million per hour. Can you believe it? What a lot of money. 14 billion US dollars per year are spent on childhood obesity alone. And as I promised you, all of the references are available if you would like to look them up. So it's frightening. Can you imagine 14 billion a year on childhood obesity, treating childhood obesity? It's just frightening. So what do we do? What's the best way? Okay, obviously keeping it, I love to say I love diet. Local, organic, vegan and ethical really truly is the way to go, because there's also the ecological perspective as well, because the choices again that we make have a massive ecological impact. For example, did you know it takes over 2,400 gallons of water to produce just 1 pound of meat? It takes only 25 gallons of water to grow 1 pound of wheat, and you can save more water, by not eating a pound of meat than by not showering for 6 months. Not that any of us would ever want to do that. But a lot of people say, oh, but people on plant-based diets or vegans, they're all eating soy and that's really using loads of land and so on. But actually, most of that soy is 99% of that soy is grown to feed beef. And look at how much water it takes to grow that 1 pound of meat. It's frightening. So it's a sensible, ethical decision to question what you're eating and why. So, and what we know from the research is that the way of eating that is most effective at staving off the chronic diseases that we wrongly associate with being a natural part of the aging process. As I said, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune diseases, cancers, heart disease, circulatory issues, and Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementias, and so on. We can stop those. We can turn them around if we catch them early enough. In the vast majority of cases, we can actually halt them as well and prevent their development. So the biggest study that actually really demonstrates that is the Adventist Health Studies 1 and 2, where they are probably up to nearly about 200,000 people that they've tracked since the early 80s. In fact, actually, they started it even earlier. And so we've got vast data. The data is beyond vast, and so it's not arguable now anymore. So we do know that plants equal health. What about hydration? We've got just 2% dehydration affects physical performance, and cognitive function is compromised as regards executive function, mental skills to get things done, motor coordination, body movements and so on, and attention compared to tasks which required reaction time. Now, the next thing is incredibly important, and before I go into that, of course, is sleep. But if you could all just please double check to make sure you're muted, that would be really, really helpful, because otherwise it starts to cut across and people can't hear the broadcast. So please just double check to make sure you're muted. Thank you so much. So sleep, let's look at sleep. Now, sleep is interesting. A lot of people think, oh, sleep is just you go to sleep and that's it, but it's not. It's an incredibly metabolically active time. It's the time when your brain is actually cleansing. Everything is, all the toxins that build up in the brain are actually cleansed during sleep and so on. And so actually, it is just the most important thing for us. One of the tricks that we're going to talk about, sleep hygiene tricks, one of the tricks is to set your alarm clock for the same time every day. Your body will start to get into a rhythm, and that's very important. So what does lack of sleep actually do to us? Well, when we get poor sleep, it makes us fatter, particularly around the middle, externally and internally. It accumulates visceral fat. Now, why should we be worried about that? Visceral fat is where many of our pro-inflammatory cytokines are actually created. A cytokine is a hormonal messenger, particularly, there's one in particular that is produced from visceral and abdominal fat. It's called IL-6, interleukin 6, which upregulates, it increases our rates of inflammation. Now, as I explained earlier, inflammation underpins every disease every chronic disease that there is. It's the common denominator behind all of the chronic diseases. So then what happens, of course, if you've got inflammation, it leads to obesity, which of course leads to hormone imbalance. And then, of course, when you've got massive hormone imbalance, it just increases your stress levels, which of course then compromises your cognitive function, which then leads to poor sleep, and it just goes round and around and around in circles. So what else can we do to get better sleep? It's crucial that you sleep in complete darkness. You really do need to get an eye mask. I always say eye patch, but that's what pirates have, isn't it? Eye mask, okay. And if you can get blackout curtains, so much the better. I live right on the seafront, and of course you've got all the seaside lights. So my bedroom's very, very bright, so I have to make sure that I can get complete darkness. It has been shown that for women who do not sleep in complete darkness, their risk of developing breast cancer is much, much higher. So please, don't, no ifs, buts and maybes, please try to make sure that you're sleeping in darkness. It also has massive impact on, a light bedroom and light at night has a massive impact on men. If you have light at night, what happens is that it switches off your production of melatonin. Now, melatonin is that sleep-enhancing, sleep-producing hormone. If you switch off melatonin, you get into a wakeful state. And if you have wakefulness at night, again, what it does is it massively contributes to weight gain because it increases the stress hormone cortisol. And when you've got too much cortisol flowing around your system, then what happens is that you start to gain weight more around the middle. And then, as I said earlier, the more weight you have around your middle, the more IL-6 is produced, which then massively increases your inflammation rates. Again, it's that going around in a circle. We can stop that by getting good sleep. I cannot emphasize just how important sleep actually is. In fact, I'm going to be writing a lot more about it because it just is just crucial for us. So the other trick is to add these melatonin enhancing foods to your diet. Bananas, tart cherries, porridge oats, sweet corn, rice, ginger, barley, tomatoes, and pistachios. Now, some tart cherries do actually contain melatonin. Everything else, pretty much everything else, actually helps to increase your production of serotonin, 5-HTP, which leads to, it's a cascade, all of these neurotransmitters and hormones and chemical messages, they work in this beautiful constellation, and it's just a top-down cascade. So it's 5-HTP actually transforms into serotonin, which then transforms into melatonin, and so on. So adding all of these to your diet really supports 5-HTP, which is associated with relaxation and feeling good, into serotonin, which is directly associated with mood and happiness. So that really does help. And then, of course, that then ultimately translates into melatonin, which enables your body to actually fall asleep. So these things are great. Please think about adding them. One of my gifts for you, and I'll tell you at the end how to actually get all of the lovely gifts I have for you today, is the Yoga Nidra recording, my Yoga Nidra recording that I made for you for deep restorative sleep. It's just 20 minutes. But the thing about Yoga Nidra, if you haven't come across it before, is that they do say, and it's a very ancient meditation technique, they do say that 20 minutes of Yoga Nidra meditation is the equivalent to 2 hours of deep restorative sleep. I've had quite a few people now, many hundreds of people use this meditation, and they just say to me, the most common thing I hear is, Jayney, it's great, but I've no idea how it ends. Clearly they fall asleep, so that's good. But people have been using it with their kids and their teens who find it difficult to sleep as well. It's amazing. It just works, it really, really does. And it's just a beautiful thing to do. So I'll make sure you get a link to that at the end. Now, as I say, inflammation is just crucial. If you suspect that you have inflammation going on in your body, if you've got achy joints, if you've got a lot of, if you suddenly got a lot of belly fat, if you've got things like headaches, insomnia, aches and pains in general, chances are that you've got inflammation, and generally speaking, we all do. So what you can do is you can ask the doctor for a CRP, that's C-reactive protein test. It's a marker, a biomarker of inflammation. So the higher the reading, the more inflammation it means you've got in your body. But it's a great test to do, because what it means is that you can do all of the lifestyle interventions that I'm giving you today, and then you can go a couple of months later down the road and get another test, and you'll actually see that your inflammation levels have dropped. And it's hugely, hugely gratifying, and it's hugely motivating to see that these things that we do are life-changing and life-saving. Because you know what, if you leave inflammation just to roll, it will, as I say, you will develop chronic ailments, you will get chronic conditions, and the truth of the matter is they could be avoided. But it's all about getting that inflammatory process under control. Now, the test to actually ask for is an HS, that's a high sensitivity CRP test. Now, for those of us lucky enough to be in the UK, we have the NHS. So if you have a legitimate reason to say to your doctor, look, you know, I've got aches and pains, I'd love to know whether I've actually got inflammation going on and what the levels of inflammation actually are, then they are more than likely to say yes. If you've got a doctor who's a little bit not so helpful, find another doctor. That's absolutely perfectly fine to do that. Okay, so what about exercise? This is number 6 in the hit parade. I believe in a triad of exercise approaches. I believe in steady state cardio, so that is walking. My recommendation is walking 5 times a week at least, for 30 minutes a day at least, okay? It doesn't all have to be in one go, and I would love those to be your bare minimum, please, nothing less than that. If you can exceed that, please, so much the better. The speed you should be going up at is where you you're puffed out, but you can still hold a conversation. So it's a brisk walk. It's a brisk walk, okay? What that will do is it'll help get body fat down. It reduces inflammation. Obviously, it helps your heart and your breathing, your circulation. It also has massive effects on your cognitive function. It deeply improves the rate at which your brain processes information. It improves your ability to make and retain memories. And of course, it helps with sleep as well. As you realize, obviously, all of these things all fit together. It's quite extraordinary. So the next thing is resistance training. Now, resistance training is pumping iron basically, or doing body weight exercises. So, you know, if you can get yourself, well, the gyms are opening up again, or if you don't want to go back to the gym, then you can do loads of body weight exercises. Just go on to YouTube and Google body weight exercises. Or my top tip is resistance bands. You can actually get not the sort of the mamby-pamby little ones that you sort of sometimes see in the gym, things like that. You can get some hardcore resistance bands. That you get the ones that are actually loops, okay? Because you can get inside those loops and you can do squats, you can do push-ups, you can do amazing exercises. Again, get yourself onto YouTube and take a look at just some of the amazing exercises you can do. Honestly, my friend Kim Constable, she's known as the Sculpted Vegan. Kim set up a course during lockdown because people couldn't go to the gym, and she's known, most of her courses are all about getting into the gym. But Kim created a resistance band workout, having always trashed those booty bands and so on, and said, oh, they don't do any good, she's a bodybuilder, Ugh. Anyway, she did her research and thought, well, I've got to do something to help people in lockdown. Bang, she just said, right, okay, actually there are these really, really strong bands. So please, everybody, if you don't want to get back in the gym, or you want to do exercise that is progressive and really will push your body, please start off gently. As always, don't overdo it and injure yourself, listen to your body, but get yourself some resistance band loops. Get the looped ones. I just bought mine online. You can find them just anywhere online, and you won't regret it. The third part of my my exercise trilogy, if you like, excuse me, I'm just going to have a cup of sip of my lovely cuppa. Oh, that's really nice. I'll tell you what that is in a minute, actually, because it's something quite interesting. So yeah, this my third part of my trilogy is mindful exercise. Mindful exercise obviously includes yoga, but it also includes things like Tai Chi and actually Pilates as well, because if you're doing Pilates properly, it's not like going to the gym and getting a mat out and with a group of 30 other people and just basically doing glorified sit-ups and abs. Pilates is totally a mind-body exercise. You've really got to do Pilates properly, you've got to get your mind into your body. It is very and you can't think of anything else. It's a completely mindful exercise. So please have a look. If you don't, I would always suggest working with a Pilates trainer one-to-one first to really learn the techniques, and then you can go to mat classes because you then know what you're supposed to be doing. There's a lot of Pilates out there at gyms and so on, and it's not Pilates at all. It really isn't. Joseph Pilates would roll over in his grave if he knew what was going on in his name. So my tea, because I know everybody's going to ask about it, it's called, it's oolong. And the reason I drink this is because it doesn't disturb your sleep at night, but it does have enormous effects for keeping visceral fat down and reducing inflammation. And the particular type that I use is called Metal Goddess Kuan Yin. And that's because I do lots and lots of lecturing about the amazing health benefits that accrue to us from things like love, kindness, and compassion. And of course, Kuan Yin is the Chinese goddess of love, kindness, and compassion. So that's why I drink that. Lovely. Again, you can find it online. So what about exercise for our brain? Wow. What do you think is the best type of exercise to rewind your body clock to become biologically younger? Have a little think about it. What do you think would be the best exercise? Obviously, you've got things like brain training, you've got sports, you've got yoga, you've got weightlifting. Let's have a look, shall we? Actually, it's dancing. Dancing gives us exercise for our brain, body, and happy, healthy longevity. The thing about exercise, dance as an exercise, is that you've got incredibly powerful things at play. Number one, you've got socialization, obviously when we're all allowed out of lockdown, but you've got socialization. Okay, so what's really interesting from an anti-aging perspective is that you can add up to 9 healthy years to your lifespan. We're not interested in just extending our lifespan just for the sake of it, because, you know, if you extend your lifespan, but you're really, really ill for the last 30, 40 years of your life, that's no life. There's just no point, is there? I mean, it's just a miserable existence. But if you can extend your health span, that's the number of years we are healthy and active for. That's the key. That's the magic ingredient to living a long and healthy, happy life. And so if you have socialization, and especially if you're working together towards a common goal, you can add, as I say, up to 9 healthy years to your lifespan, which is mind-blowing. Also, I'm giving you loads of mind-blowing things today. Also, of course, you've got the fact it's exercise. Dance is exercise, and cognitively, you've got to remember steps and choreography. And yes, it just ticks all of the boxes. So dancing is the best exercise you could possibly do for happy, healthy longevity. Now, what about mindfulness and meditation? Absolutely crucial. Meditation has so many benefits. Oh my goodness, I can't even begin to tell you. Yeah, so look, it helps us reach goals, it helps to relieve stress, it helps our minds focus, it empowers our brains, and all of these other good things. Meditation is just extraordinarily helpful. And yes, it's one of those things that has been shown to grow our telomeres. Lots of research on this. Meditation makes us biologically younger. There's no medicine out there that can do that. This is what works. So I've got a lovely relaxation response instructional recording that I've created for you. I've recorded it for you. Now, the thing about the relaxation response is that it was created by Dr. Herbert Benson of the Benson Henry Institute at Harvard Medical School. I did his mind-body medicine training at Harvard, and I learned the relaxation response directly from Dr. Benson himself. He's the most amazing, lovely, lovely man, one of the great pioneers of mind-body medicine. Really, he's considered to be the grandfather of meditation research and mind-body medicine. So this is coming to you directly from the source, okay? It's not diluted down. This is exactly how it needs to be done. The next thing, number 4 at our top 10 slot, is happiness. How do we cultivate happiness? Because if we're happy, there's no doubt about it, we live a longer, happier, healthier life. Well, I have something for you called 3 Good Things. It's research that comes out of the Greater Good Center at the University of California, Berkeley campus. And they are a wonderful science center where they research the benefits of happiness. How do we get happier? Can we increase our happiness set point? What can we do to rewire our brains so that we get happier, healthier, and live much better, much more fulfilling lives with better relationships and so on? Well, honestly, excuse me, I'm just going to let somebody else in and go back to, there we go. Right, okay, 1 second. Okay, so I've got I'm just going to go back. Yes, there we go. So I'm going to go back here. What I've actually got for you is a gratitude worksheet. Well, worksheets, that's a book, an ebook really. And it's based on the concept of 3 good things. And the idea is that at the end of the day, you write down 3 good things that happened to you that day. But the trick is that you really put a lot of description into it. So you could just say, well, something good that happened today was that they mowed the grass near my flat and it looks nice. Well, what about writing about things like how the grass smelled? You know, the fact that the birds were singing, and after the mower went, the birds all jumped down because they could get the worms, and how beautiful it looked, and the vibrant, you know, the vibrant color of the green, and you add detail. And the point is that it really engages you and connects you to that memory, such that when you come back a few weeks later and start to reread all the good things, it creates again that feeling in you, that remembrance of that good thing. And what that's doing is it's rewiring your brain thanks to a concept called neuroplasticity, where our brains actually get reshaped by the thoughts that we think. And what the research shows is that our brains actually change to be able to preferentially think happier thoughts if we do exercises like 3 good things. So I'll make sure you get that. And what about being in nature? This is so crucial. In fact, they call it vitamin N. There's so much research in Japan and other countries now, but it was pioneered in Japan on forest bathing. If you can't get out into the forest, if you live in a really urban environment, keeping houseplants has a very, very similar effect. And gardening is just incredibly good for you. It's exercise, but actually there are microbes in the soil that as you deal with the soil and so on, they come up into the air, you breathe them in, and they actually cross the blood-brain barrier, and they actually get into your brain, and they actually make you happier. Happy microbes in the soil. So you do learn something new every day, don't you? And we're going to ultimately come on to mindset. Do you remember at the very beginning, I spoke about Ellen Langer's counterclockwise study, where they did that immersion thing? Ellen Langer believes that 95% of aging is related to mindset. So when they put those elderly people in that 1970s environment, it wasn't anything about the environment itself that made a difference to the people. It was the change in their mindset that enabled them within a week to become younger biologically by 10 years or more. So it is mindset, ultimately. It's crucial. How could you create your own immersion environment? Well, the trick is, I love this. What you do is you find the music that you loved when you were a teenager. I know our teenage years can be traumatic and problematic, and you know, we fall in love, we fall out of love, we get dumped. It's all very dramatic, isn't it? And you know, it can be a very hard time for so many people. So many teens find refuge in music. And if you can go back to find the music that you loved, that lifted you up, that really just meant everything to you as a teenager, make a playlist and play that. even go so far as to looking back at, you know, online at some of the pictures of your favorite stars, your pop stars, and who you had on your wall and all the rest of it, because that actually plays the role of rewinding you physiologically to the state when your hormonal production, particularly of human growth hormone, which is the hormone that is related to improved muscle mass, lower fat mass, just general drive, enthusiasm, forward motion in life. I know, you know, when we're teenagers, we don't necessarily feel enthusiastic, but we do have an innate forward moving drive. The adolescent and teenage brain is really quite interesting. And a lot of it is to do with the very high levels of HGH. So you're not magically going to go back and become a grumpy teenager that just grunts at everybody. So don't worry about that. It's not going to do that. But if you go back and listen to that music you listened to when you were a teenager, I can guarantee that you're just going to suddenly think, wow, it'll transform you. So do it, please. It's a fantastic exercise. And I love this. Ultimately, it's a picture of the Fountain of Youth. This is a picture by Lucas Cranach, the elder. I hadn't heard of him either, but I love this picture because you've got all these people over on the left-hand side. They're all quite decrepit, they're all quite ill. Anyway, you can see in the middle there, that's the Fountain of Youth. They're all getting into the pool and they're all bathing and they're all a bit, you know, feeling a bit rubbish. And then suddenly, look, oh my goodness, as they move over as you move over towards the left-hand side, look how much younger they're all looking and how they're jumping out of the pool, and we don't quite know why they're going into this tent over here, but there's obviously a very special reason for that. We don't know what's going on. And then look, they're all enjoying a lovely meal and a party after their anti-aging adventure. So they have rewound their body clocks. Good for them. Well done, Lucas Cranach, the elder. So as I said, promises, gifts and resources for you. I've got for you my 3 Good Things Gratitude Journal. I've got the Yoga Nidra download recording. That's this deep sleep meditation. I've got the relaxation response instructional recording. And also, if you want to track your own biological age, you can go to my website, jayneygoddard.com, because there you can log in and I actually describe to you exactly how to do the tests. They're super easy. You don't need any special equipment, yet they are all legitimate age monitoring tests, biological age monitoring tests. Things like the skin pinch test, how fast does your skin bounce back after you hold it? Things like a vision test, how nearsighted are you, flexibility, balance, trying to think what else. I think there are 5 or 6 tests overall, but all of the instructions on how to do them and how to log your results are on my website. So go and check that out. It's really fun. And then what will happen is that you will get an email from me a month later saying, hey, time to redo your tests. And just so you know, I don't know your test results. None of my team can see your test results. It's completely anonymized. All your data is completely safe. It's completely anonymized. You are the only person that can actually monitor your progress as you go along month by month. And then finally, starting at, on the 1st of April is my 21-day rewind challenge. Join me on social. Again, on my website, you can actually sign up for the 21-day rewind challenge. Every day, I'm going to be giving you yet another thing that you can do to integrate it in order to get that biological clock starting to rewind. The first week together is all about detoxing, decluttering, getting rid of any kind of toxins in your environment and so on. The next week is all about building up, adding things into the diet like sort of green smoothies and checking your nutritional status and adding in certain exercise techniques and so on. And of course, mindset things. And then finally, it's all about sustainability. We set these wonderful changes in motion. We then drill down on the 3rd week to really make sure that these new, beautiful lifestyle choices that you're making that will rewind your body clock are actually properly, fully ingrained. So it's all about sustainability. So there we go. There's a lovely picture of the gratitude journal, the recordings and meditations, and obviously I've got a private Facebook group. So if you sign up to the Rewind Challenge, you will get an invitation to my private Facebook group. And of course, you can find me on Instagram, where I do loads and loads and loads of videos for all sorts of exciting things. And then this finally is the thing that nobody else knows about just yet, because I've got something very, very special for you. My lovely publishers, Watkins, they contacted me and they said, Jayney, you've written this great book. would you like to make a course out of it? I said, would I? Would I? Oh my gosh, yes, please. So they sent a film crew to me, and we set everything up, and oh, these guys were amazing, and they just recorded and filmed this absolutely amazing, amazing course. Every single thing that you need to know about rewinding your body clock, I present in the course. You even see me demonstrating recipes, and actually talking you through meditations. And honestly, it truly is. If you want me sort of by your side and actually doing all of this work with you, step by step by step, this is the thing to do. So it's great. Do sign up for it. I'll give you the details here. I don't expect you, this is the link, okay? I don't expect you to be able to suddenly sort of quickly write that down. So don't worry about it. You've got until the April the 15th, because what Watkins have done amazingly generously is they've allowed me to give you a 30% discount off the course, and the course itself is very inexpensive. It's very, very good value for money. And in fact, Etan, I know you're on the call. I'm just wondering if you can remind people how much it is in the chat box. And so, as I say, the code to use is rejuvenate. But what I'm going to do, because I don't, it's tricky to write down these links and so on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to email everything to you afterwards with links to all my goodies and your gifts and all the rest of it. But I'll also make sure you get this link as well. Okay, so that's it for this. That's this part. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I'm going to come back to you, and I'm just going to see if we've got any questions. Right, okay, so Rachel says, can you produce IL-6 if you're not gaining weight? Thinking of my team here. Yes, you can. We all produce all of these. IL-6 is what's called a cytokine. It's a hormonal messenger. We all produce them all the time. It's just when things get crazy out of control that they start really becoming dangerous. So please don't worry. It's not something, Rachel, that you need to be overly concerned about, particularly if your teenager is not overweight, particularly, or gaining weight around the middle. But it's something. Oh, thanks. Etan's just there we go. Yeah, so you don't really need to actually worry too much about that at all. Any other questions, anybody? Just let me know. Oh, now Etan has said the course is it's £40 before the discount. So as I say, Watkins have generously given us a further 30% off that. So quite honestly, that's really inexpensive. It's I think it's fantastic, honestly. I'm blown away by their generosity. And it's been so beautifully produced. It's really artistic, and it's just lovely. And I was thrilled that I could actually show some of my recipes and things like how to make an amazing raw vegan cheesecake and soup. Like if you come home at night and you're really, really tired, how do you make a really nourishing soup in less than 5 minutes? Just loads and loads of really useful stuff in there. So please check it out. You won't regret it. It's lovely. Mary says, thank you for a wonderful hour. Etan says, it includes the ebook. Wow, that's amazing. Etan, I didn't know you were doing that. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, Rachel says, wow, that's brilliant. Yes, it is. Oh, Caroline, great question, Caroline. How much does shift work affect biological age? Oh boy, yes, it does. If you're doing shift work and you cannot get your sleeping patterns sorted out, yeah, you can really start to develop some very profound mental and physical problems. There have been studies done with nurses. Of course, nurses are a really good group to study because, of course, they're fairly cohesive with their work type, with the kind of lifestyle they lead and so on. And it's been found that shift workers do suffer very badly. They do gain weight, and they do it does compromise them on a cognitive level. However, it doesn't have to be that way. If the nurses are then able, what's been found, so they're then able to actually make sure that they sleep, I'm just going to admit somebody, make sure they sleep in a darkened room during the times when they are supposed to sleep, and change their biological clock so that their bodies, or trick their body into thinking that it's actually, that their sleep-wake cycle is normal. Actually, it does help, and it can be okay, and it can be safe. But if it's not, if somebody doesn't follow the rules and they just don't take it seriously, it can be seriously compromising for health. So thank you, fabulous question. Okay, Paulina says, can you advise where to put a discount? I don't see any field for this during a check. Wow, Paulina, you're quick off the mark. Well done, lady. That's fantastic. Actually, Paulina, I don't. That's a question for Etan. Etan, do you have any ideas where the discount code would go? If you can let Paulina know, that would be great. Etan says it's out the checkout process. Paulina says that she's not seeing it, but don't worry, Paulina, because if you can't see it right now, obviously we'll go in and we'll double check it. And I'm going to email everybody after this event anyway, just to make sure you've got all of the links and everything. So if there's anything that's, any sort of, if I can do screenshots or anything to show you where the little discount code thing needs to go, then that's fine. If you want the discount code, everybody, it's rejuvenate. Etan, does it need to be in capital letters or can it just be the word rejuvenate in any case? I don't know. So perhaps you can speak to that. Maria says, thank you very much. A really enlightening webinar. Much appreciated for your kindness, generosity and knowledge. Thank you, Maria. That's a really, really lovely thing to say. Thank you. And Rakrak says, I have a lot of fat around the middle of my body for most of my life, always, and struggle to lose any weight in that area. Any suggestions of what to try to help reduce fat? Absolutely, Rakrak, yes. Walking. Do you remember I spoke about, well, that triad of exercises? Please get out and walk. I use an app called Pacer. Pacer is great because it's got exercises that you can actually do, and it takes you through like, a 3-week walk to fitness, lose your belly fat, different sort of programs and so on. Oh boy, walking is amazing for losing weight. What's your diet? Look at what you can do to add more fruit and veg into your diet so that you're crowding out. I don't believe in deprivation. This is one of the things with the 21-day rewind plan. I'm not going to be depriving you of anything. Please don't worry. What I'm going to be doing is we're going to be adding in healthy things and crowding out the bad stuff. So for example, by adding in one of my amazing smoothies, what it will do is it'll keep you super, super full for right the way until lunchtime, for example. And what that does is it means that because you're full and you've had this massive, massive nutrition boost with all the fruits and veggies and all the lovely things that you put in one of my super smoothies, then what happens is that your body's not craving for nutrients. The reason we get food cravings is because your body's craving for nutrients that it's not getting because we're eating too much junk food or what have you. So if you do super nutrition, by adding massive nutritional value, high nutritional content foods, which basically are the fruits and veggies. It's plants. Plant-based eating is the highest nutritional bang for your buck you can possibly get. So by adding all of that into your diet, you're crowding out the rubbish, and that is going to massively help you lose weight because the thing about plant-based foods, with the exception of nuts, because don't forget nuts contain a lot of oil, but we should have them in moderation. Everything else, plant-based, have at it because it contains way more nutrition per pound than animal protein type foods or things like, processed foods. The trick is plant-based, but make sure it's whole food, plant-based. If you go to my website, jayneygoddard.com, I've actually got a whole recipe book for you. So if you're thinking, okay, that's all very well, but how the hell do I start doing this? Well, I've got recipes for you. I'm here to help. I mean, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you. If you get stuck, email me. I'll help you. It's fine. It's easy. I just want you being out there, being healthy and spreading the word about all this good stuff. Right. Okay, my loves. So here we go. Right. Let's check. Hope that was helpful, Rack. Rachel said it's on the coupon code. Etan says, I think it needs to be in capital letters. That's rejuvenate. Thank you, Etan. That's great. Rachel says it's in the order summary. Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you. And Etan says there's an add coupon code in yellow at the top of the payment page. Ooh, Etan's made a screenshot, which we'll look at in a bit, but I don't want to click it right now in case I lose the chat. Fabulous. Is dairy bad for inflammation? Yes, Shay, dairy is horrendous for inflammation. It's horrific. Dairy contains casomorphines for a start, which is why it's so bloody difficult to give up cheese. You know how everybody says, well, I could give up dairy, but I just can't give up cheese. It's because dairy has something in it called casomorphine. These are molecules that are shaped just like morphine. And it has exactly the same effect as morphine or heroin in our bodies, which is why dairy is so highly, highly addictive. And so that's one of the reasons. So when you come off dairy, you can either go cold turkey and just tough it out, and you will get headachy and a bit achy and so on and so forth. But if you need to, you can phase it out, but you must get off it, because dairy is for baby cows or for baby goats, depending on what type of dairy you're having. It's not suitable for us humans. Humans are, generally speaking, lactose intolerant after the age of weaning. And so if you're having dairy, then that's not good. It's massively mucus producing. Why do we produce mucus? Well, it's our body's defense mechanism. Our body realizes we've taken in something toxic, so it produces mucus in order to be able to protect our mucous membranes and basically detox, get stuff out of our system. If you've ever had, lots of dairy and realize that you're suddenly really snotty and you've got some catarrh and so on, that's because it's your body trying to protect itself from this dairy. So yes, it's highly acidic. It actually upsets our very, very fine acid alkaline balance. Now, acid alkaline balance is a whole other lecture in and of itself, because there's so much misunderstanding about acidity and alkaline, and people say, oh, you've got to alkalize your body and so on and so forth. No, 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 no. Our bodies should have an alkalinity, a slight alkalinity. So our pH levels should be 7.365 on the pH scale. Okay, so that's slightly alkaline. If you take things into your body like dairy, animal protein and refined foods, then what happens is that it switches you over to an acid environment. Now, your body needs to get back to that 7.365 pH. So what does it do? Well, what it does is it then has to find buffering chemicals somehow to buffer the acidity, so that acidity doesn't do your body harm. And so where do our buffering chemicals hang out? Well, they're things like calcium and magnesium in our bones. So what will happen if you continue with animal proteins and dairy, you will become osteoporotic, and your bones, you'll get brittle bones, among other problems. I mean, that's not it. There's so much more to it. It moves you faster into things like dementia and so on. I cannot underline how important a plant-based program is, not just from a health perspective, but also, of course, from a planetary perspective, and also, of course, from the animal perspective as well. Right. Okay. So. Cecile says, thank you for this wonderful event. Be healthy. Yes, thank you. You too. Absolutely. Anne says, thank you for another great webinar. Looking forward to joining on the 21-day rewind plan. Absolutely. See you there. I will be emailing everybody about it. Paulina says, how many nuts is it safe to eat per day? I take 10 tablespoons of flax oil already. That's a lot, Paulina, but I know you're very, very active. I would possibly dial back on that a little bit, because that's an awful lot of flax oil. If that really is genuinely tablespoons and not teaspoons, that's a lot. I'd maybe dial back on that and maybe supplement with say three Brazil nuts a day. The latest thinking is 3 Brazil nuts a week, but it also contributes to your selenium levels, and we don't have selenium in soil anymore because intensive farming has basically leached it all out, and you cannot be healthy without selenium. So yeah, I could get, again, that's another lecture. I won't go into, I could get carried away here. But yes, adding a handful, 2 ounces of nuts to your diet a day is good practice, okay? Great for brain food. Rat says, thank you for my advice and suggestions. You're welcome. Right, oh, Paulina says the coupon code works in not capital letters as well. Great, thank you. Good stuff. Anne says, I've got to leave. Of course, Anne, absolutely. Thank you for being here. Danny says, recently diagnosed with RA. Oh, can no longer do yoga because of the weight on my joints. Was advised to try turmeric immunosuppressants. Do I have any advice? Yes, I have a ton of advice. Message me on Facebook privately. Send me a private message or send me an email, probably better. And I can certainly point you in the right direction, my darling. Absolutely no problem. I am living proof that this stuff works. I've gone from being in a wheelchair for 10 years, being completely dependent on other people for everything, like even being lifted out of the wheelchair onto the loo and back. I lost all my dignity. I lost all my my humanity. It was horrendous. And as you know, I said earlier about, being in the hospice for, all that time as well, fully expected to die. So yes, I can help you with rheumatoid arthritis. And if anybody else has any other autoimmune issues going on, it's all the same kind of stuff. So message me and I will help you. Okay, thank you. Shay says that helps so much. Etan, thank you. It says, thank you, everybody. Rachel says, it's brilliant. Thank you. I'll sign up. We're enjoying the 21-day course. I need to do this, and your family. Absolutely, get everybody involved. The point is, it's a buddy system. We can all help each other. It really is important. Danny says, thank you. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you on the 21-day challenge. Good night, everybody. It's been great. Absolutely, thank you so much. I'm going to end now, unless anybody has any desperate questions. But don't forget, please email me, and I will do whatever I can to help you. And thank you so much for being with me. Etan, thank you for making this happen. Honestly, Watkins are amazing. I couldn't believe my luck when I was signed by Watkins. They are my dream publishers, and they are just the kindest, most loving people. They're beautiful. And so I'm so grateful to you, and thank you for everything you do, Watkins. Love to everybody. Hugs to you all. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.